So I thought this week we'd do something a little bit different, and I'd show off the pens that I use most frequently. It's a question that I get asked most days on most things that I post and share on social media. So I figured, there's some merit in doing it. The one caveat is that it doesn't really matter. As you can see, I've hundreds of pens and different types and makes and brands, and they're all very much of a muchness. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certain pens that do very specific things. There's some pens that obviously don't have the best ink, or they're premium for a reason. So there is a difference, but it doesn't make a difference as long as you're drawing consistently, and it's all the gear and no idea. So I suppose what I'm getting at is, don't be like me. Stick to a pen that you like, or a pencil, and just draw lots. Speaking of pencils, I do have some, and I do occasionally use them. This pencil is likely a few decades old at this point. That's how fast I get through them. But yeah, typically I'm a pen person. Now, I do quite like these Pentel. So they're art brushes in the UK, I think, or they're Fude. I think that's how you pronounce it. I used to think it was Fude, but I think it's Fude. Bearing in mind that I am dyslexic, so I'll list all of these because I'm likely pronouncing these all wrong. I've got my idea of what they are, but they're not strictly going to be the same. But yeah, and the classically the Kim Jong-gi style of brush pen. This is a water-based one, I believe, and there's also these Pigma ones, which I haven't actually used yet. But they're very good. You adjust the flow of the ink by squeezing it, and I tend to like it when they're a little bit on the drier side. Pentel also do these pocket brushes, which are very similar. I find that they don't have the same level of variation in line. They tend to be a little bit thicker somehow. Even though these have a thicker brush, the tip seems to be finer on them. And then Pentel also do these what are they called? Brush Sign Pen Artist. They've always got the strangest of names. And these are very fine. These are kind of my favourite ones because I tend to draw a bit small. But they're all very similar. And by the way, this is by no means a sponsored thing. If I was business savvy, I would have set up some sort of affiliate marketing. But I'm not. So, if you want to support me in any way, please go and download my art books. Or, I've got a Patreon, or just like this video or whatever, Not that I expect you to, but, I'm not getting any commission for this. So, Pentel also do these fine liners. They come in black, and these are the colour dye ones. They also do these, they're called Pointliners. They're both essentially the same. This one has a colour dye ink. I don't really know what the difference is. But yeah, they're just, I think I've used this one a lot. So, again, a relatively fine line. And these, again, there's lots of different brands of types of, what would you call that? Well, fine liner, I suppose. Right. I also have this Parker pen. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's called a Jotter. And it's just a ballpoint. Don't use an awful lot of, but now one of my absolute favourite pens that I am running out of, and I am a bit reluctant to buy more of, because I've got so many pens already. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favourite pens. It's a Uni-Ball Signo DX 0.38. Again, I'll write all these down so you can copy paste them. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favourite pens to use for small, fine lines. Why, I'm not quite so sure. I think I've just practiced with it a lot. That's the main thing to take away from any of these pens. It's not the pen. The pen doesn't make you a better artist. Each pen will have a feel that you have to practice and get accustomed to. I found personally, I'm sure some people, you know, can just do it because they're great. But I'm not, so, you know, it does take practice. This is another Pentel Brush Sign Pen. These are the more squidgy, less brush-like brush pens. I think it's like a sponge or something. And they come in lots of different colours, and I quite like using these for gesture work. And they've got a slight variation of line width that you can use. I also have these Uni-Ball. That is running out of ink quite quick. But yeah, very much the same. It's a Uni-Pin fine line. Very similar, just a different colour. What else do we have? Also Uni-Ball fine liners. Again, very similar to the Pentel one. So there's Copics. So probably won't share the Copics themselves. You probably know what a Copic looks like anyway. But they also do fine liners, if I can get it out. There we go. These multiliners, again, very similar. These ones feel a little stiffer, which is quite nice. But again, takes a bit of getting used to. So I've got a few packs of them. I also have this Sailor Fude. Not sure if the ink might be running out. So these run on cartridges. Yeah, so we'll see if it makes a mark. Should have checked. But these are quite nice. No, I don't think it's going to. But it's a fountain pen essentially, but it's got a variation of line width. They're quite a popular pen, so you've probably seen them before. It's not a pen that I use an awful lot of, though. I struggle to find the paper, the right kind of paper for the ink. I'm guessing you can get other types of ink to go in them. There's also this Uni-Ball. Again, Signo. This is a broad. I've got a more standard one in gold. This one's bronze. I think I've got another one. Anyway, and that's just nice for. I tend to use them for when I'm doing pet portraits to do some of the final marks. So if typically like dog eyes, cat eyes, they have like a golden or bronze hue to them. So it's quite nice for that, to make the certain details feel alive. I will draw with them every now and again. What else have we got? There's these etcher fine liners, graphic pen collection. Got a big old box like this. They're okay. They're not my favourite pens. The ink isn't incredibly strong in them, but I will use them every now and again if I'm just doing like gesture work or things that feel a bit more throwaway, and I don't want to use some of the more expensive things. They're quite good for that. I of course have a Micron Pigma. I feel like everybody's got at least tried one of them. And again, it's just a fine line. They're very much much of a muchness, like I keep saying. I've tried experimenting, so they say that they're waterproof, right? Which they are, but I've experimented with lots of different pens that claim to be the same, you know, because I feel like the discord online seems to be that they're not waterproof, but I found that they are. So you can take it from me, you know, if you leave it long enough, I think you've got to let them dry fully. But that does seem to be waterproof, so it's good for watercolour. This Pentel Pointliner seems to be great for that. I've tried it with the Uni-Pen, seems to be waterproof. You know, so I think most of the time they are, even though, you know, as long as you don't rush into it. And that's kind of it. I do have more pens, but most of which I don't use too often. There's this Pilot G-Tech. Now, I used to use the black version of this before finding the Uni-Ball Signo, however you say it. It's a Pilot G-Tech C4. I still use it every now and again. I've only got the red now. Come in a pack of colours. Again, I probably will buy again. The only reason that I prefer this over that is because I find that the ball mechanism in this, I'm guessing it's a roller ball, just seems to be better. It doesn't seem to get stuck. These can get a bit stuck, and the tip can also break. I've also had where I've been a little bit less delicate with it, and a little bit more forceful, let's say, you know, just trying to get the ink to come out of it, and it has snapped, so there is that. I mean, there are other things that I've dabbled with. Let's have a look. Oh, there's these Pentel Brush Sign Pen Twin. They're quite nice. Again, I've not done an awful lot with them, but they've got two lots of pens, essentially. So that's quite nice. Yeah, I think that's kind of it for things that I use often. I did go through a phase of using the Pilot Parallel pen. It's the pen that Ashley Wood uses quite a bit. But again, I find that the ink isn't great, so maybe I should look into finding some alternatives to that. They're great for for card, so like a thicker weight paper card, like a Bristol board, they tend to work quite well on. But anything else that seems a little bit more like this paper, a bit softer around the edges, it just bleeds, just creates this feathered line, which I'm not a huge fan of. I quite like a crisp, nice line, so don't use that an awful lot, unfortunately. Yeah, that's kind of it. So I've got lots of other pens, as you can see, but they're all kind of a muchness, just different sizes and weights. I do have some thick markers that I occasionally use when I'm drawing on card or something a little bit bigger. I've got various types of them. They're all very much the same. I do have some dip ink that I like to use from now and again. Again, lots of different brands. They all seem to be very similar. Then yeah, that's kind of it, I suppose. But the takeaway is, you know, Pentel makes some nice brush pens. I like those. Maybe you won't, you know, it's up to you whether you want to try them or not. I like their brush pens, and most of the time when I'm drawing, especially in older videos, it's this Uni-Ball Signo. I've started using this a lot because I just have it. I have a pack of them, come in different sizes, so the Pointliners are quite good, quite like them. And then I do like the Pilot G-Tech C4 quite a bit as well. But again, I also draw with sticks. You know, I also draw with my finger. It's just a tool. It's not going to do the work for you. So you've got to find what works for you, what's within your budget, and just throw time at it. This collection of pens, some of which, like I said, with this pencil, might be like at least a decade old, because I just simply don't use them. And that's the point. It's probably better off to have like one or two things and use it than to have a collection of things that doesn't get used. So anyway, hopefully that's all made sense and been slightly useful. Like I said, I will share a list of all the things that I use quite often. It's something I did in my latest downloadable art book as well. There's a huge list of all the materials that I used in that book, so maybe that's useful to download. But I'll just share that list in my description. And again, this isn't commission based. I'm not making any money from this, unfortunately. It might be quite nice. But yeah, it's just my philosophy and recommendations for what they're worth. But you should definitely find what works for you. And, you know, I think it's quite easy to get stuck in the loop of thinking that it's going to solve all your problems. I know I've certainly been there, you know, I'm not alone in that. But it doesn't. Just time, effort, love, passion, dedication to the craft is what wins out in the end, not, you know, fancy brush pens. So have at it, I suppose. Right, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.